Hello viewers, welcome back. So this is part 3 under our playlist of Magic of Tally, where we are discussing the F12 configuration or Magic of F12 configuration. So in the last session, we saw some of the uh, F12 configurations. That is basically we saw all these configurations, right? And in today's session, we will be discussing about these configurations. What are these configurations of bank detail? We will be touching this very briefly. Like I mentioned in my previous session, we will cover this in detail when we get into the understanding of the banking module session. So I had mentioned that Tally has a beautiful banking module where you can handle a lot of banking transactions you can manage within Tally. So there we will come back and then we will get into the detail. But yes, we will briefly touch on what is this configuration and we will try and understand what these configurations has an impact on your masters. Now, before we go into this banking configuration detail and understanding of banking configuration detail, in the last session, I had mentioned about the setting a ledger of rounding off. So once you make a ledger as rounding off, what is the impact? How does this configuration help you in creating a ledger, and how Tally will automatically round off is what we will see before we go into this configuration. We will create a ledger called rounding off, and we will see what configuration that we need to do for getting this ledger as a rounding off ledger. Okay, so I'll go to create ledger, and we create a ledger called rounding off. So this normally we put it under indirect expenses, enter, and type of ledger is where basically Tally is asking you whether you want to use this ledger as invoice rounding, right? So you say, yes, I want to use this as invoice rounding, and method of appropriation we have already seen in the previous session, right? So enter, and rounding off method. So we have 3 types of rounding off method. Again, in one of my previous session, I had explained about what is the behavior of setting your rounding off as normal, downward rounding, and upward rounding. So you can see my earlier video to understand the behavior of this rounding off method, right? So normal rounding off, basically I'm going to say do a normal rounding off. And what is the rounding off limit? So what is the rupee value that you want to round off? So by default, Tally will take as 1. So that means basically we are saying that round off the fraction of value to the nearest rupee. So that is what is the rounding off limit. So I'm going to accept this, Control A, and let's go to a sales invoice. So then we will see how this rounding off ledger behaves. Okay. So I go to voucher entry. So I'm already in the sales voucher. So I'm going to select the party. Right. So let us say I'm selecting this party. Enter. So I'm going to select my sales ledger, and my item. Let us say I'm selecting this particular item, and the quantity I'm going to say is 1. And just for us to understand how this rounding off ledger behaves in the invoice, you can use this rounding off ledger in your sales invoice, and also you can use it in your purchase invoice. So let's say I'll say that 324.55. Okay, so enter. So this is going to be my price, and here again we are not having the GST. We will get into the GST in a separate session. So basically, though GST is going to be applicable, so we are not doing this for learning in this section, right? So now I'm going to use my rounding off ledger. So I've done this. So I don't want this fraction of value to be captured in my invoice. So I want to always round off my invoice to the nearest rupee. So now what I do is I select my rounding off ledger, and the moment I enter here, you don't have to enter. So you don't have to really think whether I have to add this 45 and all those. The positive rounding off also is done by Tally, and negative rounding off also is done by Tally as you keep doing your invoice. So this is how automatically Tally will take the balance of the fraction of your rupee, and then it will round it off to the nearest 1 rupee. So this is how it takes this rounding off value automatically, and then you can save this particular voucher. Okay, so that's the rounding off. It's going to be very useful, especially when you are doing invoicing with the GST, and where the value, the total invoice value, you don't want to have any fraction of rupee value. Okay, now let's just quickly come to the configuration detail, right? So, and let's discuss what are the configuration details that are there. Okay, so one is that if you see here, you have this option where provide bank account detail for bank ledger. Okay, so this is, we'll try and understand the first option. So if it is yes, what happens? If it is no, what happens? Right. So first, let's see this in Tally. So I'm going to create a ledger, right? So I'm going to create a ledger where I'm going to create a bank ledger. Okay. So first, let us see what is my F12 configuration. So my F12 configuration, let's make all this as no. Okay. And I create my bank ledger. Let's say I'm going to create a bank ledger called, just say I'm saying bank account. So I'm going to put this under bank account, right? So no bank detail. So what are the bank detail that you can capture? And especially for your banking module, you can capture your bank name, you can capture your IFSC code, and various other information can be captured, so which will be helpful for you in your banking module, right? Now what is this option? So use as notional bank for post-dated voucher. So quickly, I'll just explain to you. Again, we will see this in detail in the banking module. So this is basically, let us say you have two current accounts. You have in two banks, you have current account, and you are receiving check from a customer, which is a post-dated. So we all understand the post-dated check. We have understood during our bill-wise detail session. Okay, so now you receive this money, which, let's say this check is post-dated, which the due date is going to be 15 days time, right? So now you don't know, so you have to account this check, right, into the system. So you want to account this check and mark this as a post-dated check, but then you are not sure after 15 days in which current account you want to deposit the check based on the balance available at that point in time, right? So now how do you now handle this situation? You want to record this transaction, but you don't want to, you're not decided in which bank you want to deposit this check, right? So that is where Tally is going to help you, where you can create a bank account and mark that bank account as a notional bank. Now, what is notional bank? Very simple. So you have a current account in two separate bank, where you give the name of the bank and all those things. So here you can just call this as a notional bank, and then this acts like a virtual bank. So all post-dated transactions, if we are not sure in which bank you will be depositing at the time when the due date falls, right? So in that case, you make a receipt entry, right? Credit the customer ledger, set off against reference also, and while debiting the ledger, so instead of selecting a particular bank, you select this notional bank and keep this in suspense under this bank. And so that way, what happens, you will also get a list or Tally gives you a report of this notional bank. So it is going to tell you what are all the post-dated checks that you have received and what is the due date of the check. So when you are going to now deposit this check, you can go to this particular bank and then you can modify the voucher, and the bank in which you are depositing the check, you can go and select that particular bank. So that is what is basically your notional bank, use of notional bank for post-dated voucher. So we will see all this in our banking detail. Now, I want to enable banking information. What are the information that I can capture here? Right. So that is where I'm going to use my F12 configuration. And the first option is provide bank account detail for bank ledger. Right. So let's make this as yes, and then see what happens. Control A. And if you see here, automatically these information, additional informations are made available to you to capture the relevant information. Right. So the account holder's name, basically it is going to be captured from the company name that you are creating. And if you want to change it, like, if you remember during creation of our company, we said you can create the company name with the abbreviation also, right? And in the formal name, you can enter the full proper name. So here, whatever is the name of the company that you have created will get auto-populated. So for example, this company is Potential Solution. Probably I would have created as PS, right? So PS is going to get auto-captured here. But then, you want to use a proper name. Again, we will discuss this. Why do you need this when we come to the banking detail? So this is an editable field. You can edit it, and then you can put the formal name. Next is basically it will ask you for your account number. Then it is asking you for IFSC code, right? And also it is asking you SWIFT code, right? What is this difference between SWIFT code and IFSC code, right? So basically SWIFT stands for Society for Worldwide International Financial Telecommunication. So this code, see, basically it is like a bank identifier code, right? So where each bank has got a code. So by the code, it becomes easy to identify which bank the transaction is going to happen, right? So what is the difference between IFSC and SWIFT code? So generally, SWIFT code is used for fund transfer, which are in the nature of international fund transfer, right? Generally, if it is within the country, then you use IFSC code for the bank, right? So again, we will, what is the relevance of this? Why do you need all this thing? We will understand in depth in the banking module. Okay. And then, right. So I come to bank name. We will see what is this list. So you will capture your bank name, and also you will capture your bank branch also, right? So this is where the additional information that you will get by enabling this option called provide bank account, right? So what is the next option? Set bank reconciliation and e-payments for supported bank only. Okay. So let's just enable this, make this as yes, and then I'm going to press Control A, and then we will see what are the other information that it is going to ask, right? So here, now I have to provide all this information for my second option to be enabled. So if I provide all this detail in the first part, then this information is going to get enabled. Okay. So now let me just say account number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm just giving some dummy number. Okay, IFSC code. Let's say I'll say KK, BK, 1, 2, 3. Okay. SWIFT code. If it is there, you can enter. Otherwise, you can leave this blank. No problem. Okay. Now, Tally is giving you a list of all the banks where Tally is supporting for the banking module. So what are the things that Tally supports, right? One is auto bank reconciliation. Okay. So that means, the bank reconciliation, right from the beginning, in Tally, we had this bank reconciliation, which is where you go and do a manual reconciliation. Okay. But with the introduction of the banking module in Tally, you can download your bank statement from your banking portal, and then you can import it into Tally, so that automatically Tally will do reconciliation. So you don't have to do this manual reconciliation. So we will again see all this in detail in the relevant sections. Okay. So for that, you'll have to select what is the bank that Tally is supporting for auto bank reconciliation, because Tally has to map the field of those bank statement into the Tally's field. So that is why Tally is already giving you all this bank. So literally, it gives you bank, literally every bank in India, and also various other banks internationally also. So if you just see the list here, it is giving you the list of all the bank here. So which is probably could be around 40 line items here. Plus it also says, if you notice here, it says 545 lines more are there. So which means literally Tally is supporting, let's say approximately Tally is supporting close to 600 banks for auto bank reconciliation, number one. Number two, it will Tally in the banking module. You can also print check from Tally. That means you can configure your check information, and every time you make a payment to any person, whenever you make a payment through a particular bank, then you don't have to manually go and enter the check. You can print from within Tally the check also. So that is another feature that Tally provides you in your banking module. So for that, you need to basically check this thing. So let me say I'll select Kotak Mahindra Bank India, right? So I've selected Kotak Mahindra Bank India, right? The moment I selected this bank, you will notice that you are getting this additional configuration. If I set this as not applicable, then you will not get this information, right? So the two additional information what we saw in F11 feature, sorry, F12 configuration is set bank reconciliation and e-payment, right? So it very clearly says for supported bank only. So most of the banks, it supports bank reconciliation, and Tally also supports e-payment. So what is e-payment? Basically, you can make a payment entry in Tally, and you can export the payment advice from within Tally. So you don't have to go into the bank portal and then do the payment. So this again, Tally is supporting few banks. About 6 or 7 banks Tally is supporting. So we will understand all that in detail at a later point in time. Right. So which is the branch? For example, I'll say it is Koromangala branch. Okay. So the client code again is required for your e-payment purpose, right? So I'm just leaving this blank. So notional bank I just now discussed, right? So currently we'll not enable this. So enable auto bank reconciliation. So once you enable this auto bank reconciliation, then you can do auto bank reconciliation by downloading it. Okay. Then enable e-payment. So in case if Kotak Bank is supported for e-payment, right? So if Kotak Bank is supported for e-payment, and if you want to avail this e-payment facility from within Tally, then you can enable this e-payment. Okay, so that is the additional configuration that you're going to do by enabling this particular option. Okay, and the third option, what is the third option? The third option is provide checkbook and check printing detail. All right. So I make this as yes now. Come here, and you have these additional features, right? So one is this set alter range for checkbook. You're getting this set alter range for checkbook, and here you can manage your check. See, today check payments are not regular in nature. It is very rare. And yes, some of the companies still follow this system of issuing checks and all those things. Whatever is your business function, or whatever is your business operation, in the banking module, Tally is basically going to give you the managing of your checkbook within the system, right? So you can now say, make this as, set this as yes. Once you set this as yes, it is going to ask you what is your checkbook number, starting from, ending from. And you can not just one. So again, we will discuss this later. Not just one checkbook that you can handle, because in companies you might be having 3-4 checkbooks, where one checkbook might be with the managing director or with the owner, one checkbook might be with the senior accountant, another checkbook might be with another accountant. Depending on their the authorization for payment, you will have multiple checkbook. All this multiple checkbook, with each of the check leaf that you are going to manage, can be managed within Tally for you to get clear like analysis of your movement or management of your check also. So that is the set order checkbook where you can do this. And this is where this next option is, where enabling check printing is provided. So once you say enabling check printing, what Tally will do, so you saw, and what is the reason for Tally giving you the list of all the bank, is basically for Tally internally has configured your check leaf configuration, so that Tally, when you are printing your check, it can print exactly in the date field, pay to whom it is, amount in figure it has to capture in the right box, amount in word it has to capture in the right box. So that is where it requires you to select this particular bank listed in Tally. Okay, so now I come here and I say enable check printing. The moment I say enable check printing, set alter check printing configuration, I make this as yes. Now Tally will give you the image of all types of check for your account that is there, all types of check which Kotak Mahindra Bank uses for their different types of account. So all, as a user, you have to do is just see the image and see which image matches to the checkbook that you are having for your company. That's all you'll have to do. So just once you have matched this, select this. So if you see here, it says this is CTS format 5, there is CTS format 4, 3, 2, and various formats as well. So whichever format is the right kind of the format that you are holding as a checkbook, when you select that, you will see that Tally is automatically captured all the configurations that is required. Now again, we are not going to discuss about this in this section, right? So we will do this at a later point in time, right? So this is where the additional informations of banks are enabled here in complete, right? So you can capture your bank information here. Then you can manage your checkbook. You can enable your check printing, and then you can enable your auto bank reconciliation. And if you are availing the e-payment facility, you can enable and configure certain information for you to manage your e-payment from within Tally, right? So that's about the F12 configuration here. So this is basically the simple configuration. By default, when you create your company, Tally is going to give you this configuration for you, where you can enable or disable. And I hope we in this last 3 sessions, you would have understood the impact of enabling a particular configuration option or disabling a particular configuration option. In the next session, we will be seeing the additional, what are the other configurations that are there. So if you see here, we will notice here that there is this option which we have not enabled, right? So show more configuration. So in the next session, we will see, by enabling this show more configuration, what are the additional configurations that Tally provides you for the master, and what impact these configurations have on your master also we will see. So thank you all for staying till the end. See you all in the next session. Thank you very much.